purposeful wanderers, people who are nomadic by nature. Your adventure is not contained. Your talent is not limited to your zip code. You're going to love the guy that I am bringing to you today. His name is, well, you can call him the bearded one.
Yes.
Or Damon, Burton. Absolutely go look him up right now. If you're sitting stationary anywhere, look him up on LinkedIn. You're going to find some really cool stuff. We met online, right? I don't date online, but I meet some really cool people online. And this is one of them. And listen, a lot of us are making this thing a whole lot harder than it needs to be. And if that's you, pull those ears out, stretch them out, and get ready for the thunder. Damon, welcome to the Sell Anywhere, Lead Anywhere podcast, brother.
That's a wrap. Let's just end it there. Thanks for the intro. You do date online. We are in a bromance state right now. We are having a whirlwind love affair right now.
This is true. This is true. We have and we'll dig into that. We will absolutely dig into that. By the way, quick reminder for you guys, the Sell Anywhere book is it is out in 1 week as of today. So by the time you hear this, it'll be out. Go ahead and order it.
Good for you.
And it's I'm ready to rock that. And if you wanna travel with me, put me in your briefcase and take me along and scope out your own adventure.
Let's just make this awkward as possible.
Damon, I met you through a mutual friend, and I think that's how all good things start. And it's for me, I find that the way that we have connected, first off, is the way that I feel like this is how business can be and should be done. But also, well, before we get into that, this is a Sell Anywhere podcast. Tell us where you're at. I see this beautiful office space behind you. Where's your
I'm just north of Salt Lake City, Utah. So I'm in northern Utah, and I think we're expecting our first legit snow of the winter today.
Come on. Love me some Utah. And it looks like you're pretty comfortable. And this is a home environment, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so I've owned a marketing agency. I've owned a marketing agency for 14 years, and it's my team's always been remote. So I have half my teams in the state, half my teams overseas, and we've just always conducted business virtually. I like being at home. I like being around my wife and kids. We are the oddballs. I've also been married for 14 years, and I love her as much now as day one. So like us being together 24/7, like that's our jam.
I love that. A lot of people who listen to podcasts and they're junkies of knowledge and growth and all that stuff, they really mess it up. They make their work their life. And what I love about you, Damon, is you make your life work and everything flows from that. And we're definitely going to be digging into the whole idea of remote team. One of the things that made my ears preak up is when you were telling me there's a little bit of a journey that sometimes you take, whether it's I can't remember. I think it's in the dead of winter, and maybe it's not working the same now. Can you talk to us about what you do, how all that has operated in the past?
My day trips.
Yeah.
So I actually just did one last week. So it's kind of along the same note of me appreciating my time with my wife and kids. So being in Utah, as much as I love Utah, I love the summers more than the winters. So in the winter, I want to get out and get some sunshine, and I'll take the closest places from here where there's a beach is San Diego. So it's about a 90-minute flight. I'll catch like a 6 a.m. flight there, but I want to get back to my wife and kids, and so I'll catch a 6 p.m. flight back the same day. So I do these things, what I call day trips. And so I went and did one. I certainly haven't been doing them as much this year, usually. And I do them I do them year round, but in the winter, I do them a little bit more just to get that break and that sunshine. So I usually do them at least once a month, usually twice a month in the winter. But yeah, COVID kind of it makes you a little more hesitant about doing that. And then, but I did one last week, kind of took my younger brother, when I'm the oldest of seven. And so my 22-year-old brother, kind of exposing him to the world. And every time I go to different places. Lately, I bring him, and Donnie, if I was in your area, I'd call you up and say, you want to meet in person. And so I've kind of been doing that with other people that I know and introduced them to some cool people. And last week we were in Arizona and met Charles Barkley. We
What?
hung out with Charles Barkley at my friend's cigar bar.
The round mound of rebound? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So my friend, I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago, met another friend, and my brother was with me as well. So we've been on this like mini tour in the last month. As soon as I get done saying I haven't been traveling very much, now I'm telling you I went 3 places in 3 weeks. Other than the last 3 weeks, I haven't been traveling. So I took him to San Diego, met a good friend, Mo Gaius. Have you met Mo? Have I introduced you to Mo?
Not yet. Not yet.
So I met Mo in San Diego, and then met Michael. I'm going to slaughter his last name. It's Hawaiian. Kalaniki. Met him in Vegas. And then when we were in Vegas, he took us to a friend's cigar bar. I don't smoke, but my brother smokes cigars, and took him there. And I said, well, geez, if you're into cigar bars, my friend owns this super fancy one in Arizona. You want to go there? So we went there, and just it's been really fun just exposing him to different things. And that kind of goes along with what we might be able to talk about a little bit today. Is I just like, my new thing is living through other people. Like, I've done a lot of fun stuff, and so now my fun is like seeing other people experience new things.
So you're a little bit of a curator.
I am. I'm a curator of life experiences. Thank you. I've been trying to figure out how to position that title. Now we got it.
Dude, yeah. We'll send you an invoice.
Dude, did you know that I am officially a lord? You are speaking to Lord Damon Burton now.
Well, I knew there was a reason why I was on my knee. Why, are you kidding me? Look at this. Are we the first to bring honor to Lord?
You are.
Damon Burton.
Yes. That's it. It's not as cool as it sounds. You can buy it online. But it's legit though.
I can buy lordship?
Yeah, you can buy lordship. And I guess the title is based on like you actually having land gifted down to you. And so they plot you like a 5-foot piece of land in this honorary house of manor place, and then you get lordship. that was actually flying back from either Vegas or Arizona, and I just stumbled across them like, yeah, I want a lord title. Why not?
Please show me your ring. Do you have a ring?
I don't, but I have.
But you do have a wax seal.
I have a coat of arms, though.
Sent me. We must have something to kiss, Damon.
Look, I have a coat of arms, though.
Nice. Nice.
Oh man, see, that was already worth the investment.
How did I not know that you were one of 7 siblings?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Why didn't you know that, Donnie?
I don't know. Because I asked that of everyone. I say, are you one of 7 siblings? And I don't know how I didn't
know. So you didn't ask me that. You just got used to being told no.
Yeah, and I think I told you we have 8 youngins ourselves. We have 8 kids. Yeah.
You're wild.
I know. We fit right in when we were in Utah. I'll say that.
Yes.
Homes were not too small for us there.
You know what? That was either the funniest thing anybody's ever heard, or they have no idea what you're talking about.
They don't. And we're going to move right along from that. It doesn't matter. The thousands of listeners in Utah will understand what that one is. Talk to us, Damon. One of the things that you do really, really, really well is and I believe it shatters, it stands in the face of what people, a lot of people believe about building relationships, but you build really great relationships with people that you've never physically met.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it in a way that is very personal.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I've always kind of been like a giver and just do things that feel good. But then obviously when you own a business, you have to, put food on the table as well. And so over the years, I realized that the majority of my business was coming from referrals. And so I had a moment where I said, well, why can't I kind of blend both those worlds and continue to scale the company, but still not be the gross pukey sales guy and still foster relationships? And so I started to make a real strong intentional push towards networking and building relationships, and with the true intention of the relationship, not the financial possibilities. And if you take care of the relationship, the financial benefits takes care of itself later. So I really have just kind of embraced engaging other people just because it feels good. about 20 minutes before you and I jumped on, I was talking to another person that I met through LinkedIn, and then they kind of followed me over to Facebook, and we've been engaging on Facebook for probably about a year. And they wanted some consulting, and then they rescheduled because, you know, they were candid and said, well, money's tight right now. And I said, put it back on the books and don't worry about it. I'll just, you know, help you out this round. And so we ended up getting on a call that was supposed to be scheduled for half an hour. And I had the time open, and ended up going for 90 minutes. And most of that call was not about my area of expertise of SEO. And it was just about business basics and a lot of stuff we're talking about now, like how do I scale relationships? And so that's kind of like the indirect personal answer. Like, I do it because it feels good. And then there's also the icing on the cake that it grows your business. Now, the how is you have to find the balance of scaling, but also maintaining the personability of the scaled engagement.
I'm gonna time out you right here, because a lot of I watch people, I've consulted with people that so we're gonna get into the how in a second, Damon, but they see it as an either or. Right. I can either scale, or I can grow, or I can have clients, or I can have a relationship. So really, it's almost like a transaction and a relationship are at odds with one another. And what I'm hearing you say is, and this is why we connect so well, is we're saying that business is a byproduct of relationship.
Yeah.
It doesn't negate the transaction, but maybe, I guess, like, can you address maybe the either or? I don't know if you ever struggled with that, or were you always just like, dude, this is about relationships?
So somewhere in the middle. I mean, like, one thing that's unique about how I approach things is I super value relationships and business and the byproduct of it. But at the same time, I equally super value my personal life and my private time with my family. So the reason why I mention that is, like, I don't give clients my cell phone number. Like, nobody has my number. I shut off the phones at 5 o'clock, like our auto attendants. You just cannot get through. I don't have email on my phone. I put it in our contracts that we are not available 24/7. We are not available on weekends. We're not available on holidays. So it really comes down to defining what you're comfortable with, and then being transparent about that. Like, those arrangements are not weird unless you make them weird. Like, if you don't set those expectations, and then your client calls you in a panic, and then you tell them no, then it's weird. But if you're proactive about it and say, hey, look, I'm all in during work hours, super passionate about what I love. And so during that time, like, I'm here, whatever you want, anytime. But you actually get more respect. I've never got any pushback from a client when I tell them I'm not available. And a lot of people will say, well, do you lose business? Do you miss opportunities? And I don't think I do, because if anything, two things happen. One is that client goes, okay, Damon has boundaries. I respect that. And I respect that because he's a professional. And because he's a professional, he has those boundaries. But then at the same time, the people that want to push those boundaries, those are not my clients. I don't want them. So, you know, I think if you set those ground rules, when you're in your early entrepreneur days, it can suck to turn down a client. It's totally worth it. Like, you selling your soul and not sleeping at night for that extra buck, it wears you down. So it can be a long-term play, but it's worth it.
Okay. So I'm going to, so confessions of a salesperson, right? I can tell you that for a very long part of my career, well, at least the first half, I felt like I had to be a fit for everyone. And Damon, what you just now described is you basically saying, hey, yo, here's who I am, and not everyone's a fit, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to you sales professional and you sales leader that's out there. I want you to listen to what Damon say, and I want to dig in this, like, some of the specifics. But it's, if we can free ourselves to know who we want to be attractive to, it will also free us to repel others, so that we're not. I can tell you that me going through that, first off, there is an incongruence with, like, you're being one way or you're over promising. There's always this weird feeling of guilt that follows that person around. There's always a weird place of, like, sleepless. There's something there's a restlessness that follows that person around, and most people get burnt out that way. And what you just described, Damon, was something that where you basically have given us permission to say you can have what you want, or you get to decide what's important.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always been that way?
I've always been very confident, yes. But there's kind of a definitive moment when I was at dinner with my wife in the last employer I had. But before I get into that story, I think one other thing that kind of complements this discussion is being the concept of being comfortable with the unknown. And so what I mean by that and how it addresses your question is when I was younger in, late teens, early 20s, I didn't know what I was going to be and what I was going to do as career. I had a pretty strong sense that I would be self-employed and do my own thing, but I had absolutely no clue what that thing was going to be. But I think part of the beauty and why I've been able to carve out, a career that I like, working with people that I like, that provides financial stability, is that I didn't prematurely commit to all those other options. I was okay with the unknown in going. The one way that I often compare it is like, you dated your career. So like in real life, you date to find a partner. The first relationship doesn't work out, but you take away what you liked from it and what you didn't like from it. And then you look for those things in the next partner. You date somebody else, and if it doesn't work out, you take away from what you've learned in the two partners, move on to the next one. And then eventually you find your career that you want to marry. And so that's how it was with me when I found the world of, web design and search marketing. Is I had done enough things where I said, I like business, but I don't like corporate. I like design and the creative side, but I like, whatever. So I found the ups and downs of all the things that I liked and picked a path. And I gave myself the freedom to not prematurely commit and then just explore. So I'm going to pause there before I get into the dinner with my previous boss, because it sounds like you got something to say.
You kind of see me like love. I'm like, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Well, I mean, like, it's funny because just the idea of dating your career, you may have just saved me a lot of struggle with at least 5 of my 8 children. So like, I love the mentality of like, listen, you don't just get one whack at it. You like
Yeah.
when you step up to the plate one time, there's such a pressure that goes along with that. And that's why when you see people in college and they're like, what's the one thing?
Dude,
And yeah,
I'm
not fair.
mentoring my wife's nephew, and so with that, his girlfriend that he's been with for about 5 years has kind of come along with that, and so I've kind of been giving her advice too. And she made a post the other day. She's gone to nursing school, like she's put in a couple years and a good amount of time and money in it. And she made a post the other day that said something about the stress of trying to explain to people, friends and family, like why you're considering changing your career. So the way that I interpreted it was she's put all this time into nursing, but now she's reconsidering. And so I replied back to her and I said, the only thing that's worse than that is following through and regretting it.
Yes.
Like if you think about all the people that that are like midway through their life and they're just absolutely miserable, but they might even be successful, it's because they're doing something that they absolutely hate.
Dude. And you and I, here's the deal. For those of you who are out there, and maybe you're at the beginning, maybe you're at the bottom of the mountain you're about to climb, make sure it's a mountain worth climbing, right? I have watched too many people step into something because they thought they had to. It starts maybe with expectations of others. Maybe it's because you think you have to have this thing, or maybe it's a cheap, whatever the reason is. Most people, like I work with a lot of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s that are very successful, and they never actually question, like they don't feel like they are able, they can't do what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They walked in and they put these on. And the worst thing that you can ever lose in any of this stuff is your agency and your freedom and your belief that what you're doing is what you want to do. That to me is that's that place. It's the the massive men are leading lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with their song still in them. That is the corporate line that people are getting into because of whatever reason, and then they stay there. And Damon, what you just did is you threw out the lifeline, you threw out the preserver that's a rescue to us that says you have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one great example is when I was in my infancy of learning web design, I worked on radio, and I took an internship, and I got really lucky to be on air in just a couple months. And, you think about being 19, 20 years old and being on air in a major marketplace, like that is cool stuff.
Dude, you
But
sound like a late night DJ. Is that what
no,
we're,
no,
no?
I was the total opposite when I was on air, because I'm a pretty soft spoken person. And so when I was on air, I was the very like barfy, like up energetic. I didn't do the radio barf voice, but I was much more loud spoken than I am naturally.
Oh, I want to hear
Yeah.
your closest radio barf voice before we.
No,
That's also
they're so cringy. No.
okay.
So when I was in radio, like it was cool. Like it was all the cool things you think about. You're on air, you're playing music, you're going to concerts, you're meeting artists. But I learned very quickly that that was not what I wanted to do long-term career. It was very toxic. And for me, the biggest thing I noticed was how transient it was. If you lose your job in radio, you're not just going to the radio station across the street. Like you're uprooting everything and moving across the country to find the next gig. And so like that's a great example of you got to look at the reality and the full picture of things, and decide what are the long-term benefits of it. Like sure, nursing probably sounded amazing for my nephew's girlfriend because it's in a field that she thought she liked and the money sounded good. But now that she's actually experiencing it, like be okay experiencing stuff, be okay dating that job and then going, you're not the right one for me.
It's like this fear that we won't get another chance is what I see. And so it's almost like the picture I see, it's almost like going to the buffet table and thinking you only get one shot there.
Yeah.
And you pile it up and then you get back, you're like, oh, I really didn't like this pork. And then now you're like, well, I'm stuck with it.
Yeah, so gotta eat it.
But the reality is, as a buffet, you can keep going back. You can keep trying again. There's like, you're not gonna like, I understand that maybe you won't always have the same opportunities, but there's always something else along the way. You've got to be able to believe that something or someone's going to meet you along the way.
Yeah, yeah. So the dinner story you asked,
Thank you.
if
Dinner table, yes.
if I've always been, with this mindset is where I define what I'm comfortable with is, there was one moment where I really kind of went all in. So this is when I was with before I started my company. So this was probably about 16 years ago, and I was working for this super successful guy, but he was amazingly toxic. He was doing probably $1 to $2 million a month, and I was making like $12 an hour. And it wasn't the financial thing that was the problem, because at the time I was like early 20s and like I could pay my bills, whatever. But it was just the environment was so bad. And then one time I was at dinner with my wife, and it was like on a Friday, so it was after hours on the weekend. And do you remember those T-Mobile Sidekick phones? Did you ever have one of those?
Never
Like
had
little flip screen
I
one?
remember it was a thing that slid
Oh,
out.
swivel, yeah.
Yep.
So I had one of those. So it's kind of like one of those early day phones that you could put email on. And so of course that was cool. So I had email on my phone. Well, he was blowing me up at dinner and I didn't answer because I was at dinner and it was on the weekend and it was late. And I didn't answer. So then that progressed to texting. He was texting me and then he was emailing me. And so right then at the dinner table, I deleted email on my phone and I said, I'm never going to have it again. And I haven't. So here we are 16 years later and I've never had email on my phone since then.
Oh my gosh. I think I'm gonna delete email from my phone, Damon. And then if anyone asks me, then I'm gonna flash the beard. Yeah.
Damon said it was okay.
Yeah, Damon says so. Well, all right. I want to get like really. You said the culture was toxic, and
Uh-huh.
you gave a great example. And one of the things that I've seen, one of the things that you pride yourself on, is being able to create this web of people in lots of different places, and that's why you're on the Sell and Lead Anywhere podcast,
Yeah.
right? So it's so talk to me about how can we take this thing and make it fun and happy and good and productive and to do it from anywhere? Like how, and we have so many people who are struggling with this right now and today.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you just have to be intentional with actually caring. And it might take, depending on the personality and who you are, it may be hard to break that sales mind, being stuck in the sales process, because you may tell yourself like, no, I want to be about relationships, but then you get it. Like I had a call yesterday and it was a networking call, and every once in a while I get hit up on, well, every once in a while, all freaking time, like any of us that's on LinkedIn know you get messages like, let's just have a virtual coffee. And so the way I reply is like, hey, I'm totally down for meeting new people as long as There is no hidden agenda, zero sales pitch. Like I'll tell them straight up, like I don't want to talk business. I want to, like, if we're going to talk, like, hey, Donnie, how are you? Good to meet you. Got any kids? What's your story? And so we get on, and the guy just starts vomiting sales. And he goes, I know this isn't a sales pitch, but I really like to help people with their investments. And I'm like, dude, not only did you say that we weren't going down that path, but I've also already told you 30 seconds ago that I got that figured out already. Well, that's great that you have those investments figured out, but where I really specialize in is, I'm just like, dude, that guy's never going to hear from me again. So what I do is when I engage is I actually get on with no agenda. I mean, if they ask me about business, I'll talk business, but I'm not going to be the one that brings it up. So anytime you fall, a great example is the people I was talking about, how I've been traveling and meeting people in person. So Mo, the guy in San Diego, he's a fitness trainer. So when I came out, I spent like $10 on this little thing, which I'll tell you in a minute, but I spent a really small amount. So what I did is, him being a fitness trainer, me being into optimizing websites, I had a trophy made that said most optimized website. And then I had website scratched out and it said body. So it said most optimized body. So I spent like $10, but like that is something he can never buy. That is something that is completely personalized. And that's something that shows my intention in the relationship, because I had to go call the place, think about what to say, pick up the trophy, like do all these, bring it with me, pack it in the suitcase. And now Mo and I are great friends. Like yesterday was his birthday. I sent him a birthday gift. And so we have these great relationships, and I just have endless stories of referrals coming from those. One gentleman that I talk about often, he's a great friend of mine now. He was one of my first SEO clients, and we just sparked up a relationship, and we have our business discussions, but we'd also have friend discussions. And that one guy in probably years 4 through 6 of my agency, one person sent 25% of the entirety of my business. And so I just, you can look at it, and it's maybe where I'll kind of bring this full circle is, you can look at paid ads, you can look at all these other things as $1 in, $2 out. And a lot of people come to me and say, well, what you're doing is not scalable. Well, kind of not. Like, it's not scalable in the sense that I can say $1 and $2 out, but what I can say is on average it's $1 and $5,000 out on a more sporadic frequency. So it's totally scalable, but you have to come in it truly with the intention of relationships first.
Dude. Yeah. And to describe what I got when Damon, I was walking through getting to the finish line in my book journey, and you were sharing with me the experience. Do you mind if I share what I got?
Yeah.
All right. Now, if I were actually in my office, by the way, I don't save the wrappings of anything. Like, why would I? But here I'm just describing this. It was a golden bubble wrap envelope type of a container.
I got one. Wait, here, you want to grab one?
Oh yeah, go get it. Go get it.
You keep talking while I grab it.
Golden bubble wrap. And now here is the question that I would say is, like, how many of those have I ever received in my entire life? And the answer, of course, is 0. Like no one gets these, no one does these. And if you want a chance to double, triple, quadruple, 10x, whatever you're doing, do something different. Don't do the same thing. And so here I get this different thing. There it is. Damon's holding it up. For those of you who are viewing it, by the way, you can view this on our YouTube channel now. So this golden delight showed up in my mailbox. And who isn't happy, right, when we get something? And then inside is this dossier. And it's like, ooh, like I'm a spy now. And then I turn it over, and it has a string, and the string is held together by something I love, which is a wax sealed stamp, personalized. It's not some like generic thing. It's Damon's wax sealed, the beard and everything is there, and it's actually about 5 times bigger than any regular wax.
You know what's funny is I bought a small one. I got a small one now. It's going to be here every day. Okay. That thing was getting a little out of control.
But the point is like, literally, I know that Apple actually, like, they hired people to sit in a room and go through unboxing of their products. And how does it feel? What do you feel like when this is happening? And I'm telling you, it's not lost when you're sending it to someone that matters. Now, I think if you Damon, if you blanket sent gold packages, like you just bought a zip code of people, you sent the gold with a dossier with your book, and inside was the book with a personal note to me. And it's like, it was just bad to the bone. And that's, if you get the book from me and it looks just like that, now I'm not original. So that's it. But for me though, you made me feel something, Damon. And that that creates such a high level of goodwill for me. If anyone ever asks, like, SEO, like, what do we do? Is there even a second choice in my brain? Do I probably know a dozen or so people who do SEO, but I can't think of any of them. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to. It's just a reality.
Yeah, you build up a reputation of being somebody that actually has an interest in, when you think about SEO, not only do you know that I have the skill set, but the reason why you would refer me is above and beyond the skill set. There's a million SEO people out there, but you want the people that, like, you're going to refer the people that have a further interest in the actual success of whatever product or service you offer. A great example that I can give is, like, if some of the listeners want a tangible example, so, somebody might be saying, okay, but, show me the money. So a couple of examples of how this is translated into real dollars is, one was just, I can give you two recent examples. I'll start with my historical example that I like to share though, is, there was a gentleman that reached out to me on LinkedIn. He had seen something I had posted. So that's where it starts, when I'm on LinkedIn or whatever platform your audience is on, like, every time I post, I never send them to a link. I never send them to a newsletter. I never send them to a funnel. It's just, here's the answer. I'm solving your problems, the end, like, zero call to action. And so what happens is then you expose the people in your network to your expertise, and then they begin to build a psychological relationship with you. And then when they're ready for your thing, you are top of mind. And so then they reach out for you.
And we know, by the way, we can sense when you have a contraption and a connivance and you've schemed something versus I'm just showing up. Continue with your report. This is good.
Yeah. So I had a guy reach out. He followed something I posted and said, hey, we want to talk about, we're looking for an SEO guy. Can you meet up? They happen to be local, which, most of my clients I never meet. So I went and visited him, and we had went to a corporate, this was a very corporate place. So we went into the conference room, and I don't think it was the first meeting. I think it was like the second meeting though. And I brought a pillow because one of the guys said they were tired. And so, like, before we met, so I brought a pillow for that guy, because you want to break the ice. Like, none of us want to go in there and talk about business. We all want results of business, but we don't want to talk about it. So I make a joke, and then I didn't sell him at all. I educated him. I said, look, here's the advantage of SEO, but I'm also going to tell you the disadvantages. And so I just educated them, which makes them trust you. And it also makes for a better client for me, because then they can help me help them. So I walk out of there, and then later that day, he reaches out and says, what was so amazing about you coming in is that you didn't sell us. Like, hardly ever do you leave a marketing meeting and not leave it more confused. But you came in there and said, here's the questions, here are the answers, and then just held our hand through everything and let us decide. So those guys signed up within, I want to say, less than a month for sure. They said, hey, I want to introduce you to my neighbor. And he's got he's working for this company out in Vegas. And so I chat with this guy, ends up being for this big law firm, and they end up signing up. So now I got two clients in less than a month. So this last guy goes, and this guy was less than a week before he goes, I want to introduce you to the Utah Jazz. And I was like, what? Of course I'm saying yes, but in my mind, I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And so come to find out, it was the guy. He was the exiting vice president of the retail division, Team Store. And so he was moving to take over a new position with a family-owned law firm. And so he was switching jobs, but he was tasked with sourcing out the marketing for the new Team Store. And so all of those were circumstances, especially the Jazz. I could have sent a bazillion postcards and done endless Facebook ads and never got my foot in the door with that contract.
Oh my gosh. And by the way, I don't know why, like, my mind went from Utah Jazz and I went back to Sir Charles. Were you a lord when you met Sir Charles?
I was.
Yes. So you had the higher ground. I love
Yes.
it.
I should have mentioned that. I should have flexed my alpha male status.
It's not too late. Like knowing you.
I'm just going to send him a message.
So, but like, it's funny. I wrote, like, just taking notes over here furiously. I wrote down the economy of give. Like, that's basically what, like, you've literally created your own economy, Damon, because what we're talking about is stepping in a way that others trust you. Like, immediately from the moment you and I met, we started talking, and I think we were just like, same thing, no agenda. Let's just, like, who are you? What do you do? And it's just hard not to trust you.
It's because I don't talk, I don't lead into sales, and in fact, when I'm asked, I just had a networking call yesterday or the day before, and the guy goes, all right, tell me about SEO. And I go, well, I'm the anti-SEO guy. It was something like that. Like, I'm not going to pitch you on it. I'm not going to puke on it. Like, it works for some people, it doesn't work for others. And every time I say that, there's just like such a sigh of relief from the people on the other side going, oh, okay. And I think that's what it is like everyone lets their guard down. When everyone has their guard up to begin with, but then when you come in and be like, sure, I guess I'll talk about my thing if you want, but really, I'm just curious who you are, and show that personal interest. It just goes so far. And if you want one more tangible example of conversation and relationship to dollars, I had a new client sign yesterday, and the way that client was a referral. Like, listen to how fast this was. So somebody tagged me in a group on Facebook. There's this, I'm not gonna say who it is, really successful entrepreneur. And they post a tag in or they do a thing in their private group that says, hey, one of the things I want to get locked in for 2021 is SEO. I'm looking for somebody that does this, and this. And then I got tagged, and a couple things happened. When I got tagged, the person that tagged me said, Damon's the only guy. He's about lifetime value. He's about building relationships. And if you compare that to what everybody else that tagged their friends said, all of them were like, my friend will dominate Google. He's the best at SEO. And it was always about skill. And the person that tagged me said relationships. It didn't say anything about SEO. He said, I do SEO, the end, everything else about relationships. And so to follow that up, I got in there, and my reply was simply, hey, what's up? If I can help, here's my background. Happy to help either way. The end. I didn't continue the sales pitch. I didn't flex any of my skills at all. I just said, like, here's me. If I can help you, let me know. And so guess what happened? I get the very next day, I have an appointment booked on my calendar from this guy. I don't know that he replied to anybody. Well, I don't imagine he did, because he signed the contract 2 days later. So day one is intro, Facebook comment, me saying, cool, if I can help you, I'm happy to. If not, equally great. The next day is Zoom session. The next day is signed contract.
There's something that it's almost like when we were in the middle of all of our anywhere journey travels in Utah, actually a lot in Utah, we would fly fish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would cast, my kids would actually do really more of the fishing. They were like, I would get tangled up. But it's like, if you don't present things correctly, what happens is like, I don't know how fish can figure out if something is, oh, that's bait.
Mm-hmm.
And we all can sense when someone is being, like, our alert flags go up. And I really believe that when someone shows up to beat their chest, when someone shows up and says, oh, I'm the, like if you're giving me all your credentials, it probably means
you're overcompensating.
Like, yeah. Yes, that's exactly. And I think we all sense that, and we want someone who is real. And I hope that when people are listening, they are like my hope is this is another permission. So one of those is you get to choose what's important, and another one is that you don't have to to flex.
Mm-hmm.
You like my 3 favorite letters, you be you. And I think you really gave us the essence of that here. I want to it would be a crime of me not to go here, because you're really, really good at something that, again, the anywhere leader has, like, they're again, just a lot of people in free fall right now. How do I create a culture, or how do I outsource and have a great culture? You do a ton with VAs.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so my entire team is technically VAs, technically contractors, but I have a team of 20. They work exclusively for me by all intents and purposes. Intents and purposes. That's one of those words that I learned the other day is it's not intensive purposes. It's like intents and purposes
Because I'm going into a tent and on
with
purpose.
purpose. So, but I foster this relationship. Everything we've been talking about, I do internally, like with my internal team as well. And so I got about half my team in the States, half in the Philippines. And prior to earlier this year, I had never met any of them. And the journey of the Philippines is a whole other story because it was right when COVID happened. But prior to this year, I'd never met any of them. And my longest employee has been with me for 12 years, and I've never had any of them quit either. I had to fire some, but like I've never had anybody leave. And I've had two of the teams in the Philippines ask me to be a godfather.
Rewind. Did you just say never had anyone leave?
Yeah, technically I've had one person leave, but it was because he's a friend and he had a unique opportunity come up. He wasn't looking for a job and I told him to take it. I said, it sounds like a good opportunity, go for it. So, but other than that, yeah.
I'm highlighting that because that's not the norm, and you realize that, but I just wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
this is attached to that. So,
well, I had a discussion with my video editor the other day, and he's newly married, and we were just talking about life. He's one of the ones that asked me to be a godfather. I think I'm gonna mess it up, but I think the phrase is called ninong, and he says, "Will you be a ninong?" And I was like, "Well, thank you. Yes. Like, what are my responsibilities?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing really. Just guide us on life." And I'm like, "Oh, that's all. Okay, that's great." So
that's
he
all.
says we were having one of those life conversations, and he was talking about big dreams and goals and whatever. And I told him, I said, look, hopefully I can provide those opportunities for you. But if I can't and you think somebody else can, like, don't hesitate. Like, I'll be there to support you on that decision whatsoever. And that really, and they all know that I am very sincere about that. So one conversation, I'll go on podcasts to talk about VAs. But one thing that's come up recently is, how did COVID impact your relationships? Did it make things worse? And I think if anything, it made it better because the first thing that I did when, everybody started losing jobs and people were concerned about what's going to happen is I came in and I said, first thing I said is, guys, your jobs are safe, because I just want them to have that peace of mind. And then after that, I went a step further and I said, outside of work, what can I provide to improve your quality of life? And so I had a couple of, they wanted a new chair to sit in. So I forwarded the money to buy a chair. And then two of them wanted air conditioners. So I sent them like $600 to buy them air conditioners. And then one of them I knew was into gaming. So I said, can I buy you a subscription to some sort of gaming thing, or does anybody want to learn guitar and I'll pay for a guitar? And so if you have it's the same concept we talked about earlier, just in any relationship, whether it's business externally or business internally or family, friends, whatever, like just plant those little seeds that you actually have intentional caring about what's going on with them.
Okay. So there are two things, by the way, and this is for you leaders who are out there, and like I, your people are not like lightning bugs that you capture and you put in a jar and you keep them there forever, and if they only can be happy with you and with your company, right?
Yeah.
What you just now said is like, hey, maybe we're all on a journey. Maybe I can help you along the way. It looks like we believe the same stuff. We're going in the same direction. If your path ever veers off in another direction, awesome. Like you're cheering for them. And then the other one is just like actually like investing yourself and caring for another person. How did you get, was there any secret way that you asked that question of like, what do you need or how can I help you? Like, what were the specific questions you asked? Because, and it sounds like you were actually even willing to step up to the plate with those as well. But what were
Yeah, they didn't bring it up. I brought it up. I just, the reality, we all know that COVID's like pretty exhausting, even if it doesn't impact you directly. Like, I've been one of the fortunate ones that on paper it hasn't impacted me, but doesn't mean you don't see the gray cloud that's out there. And so I just wanted to be proactive. And I said, hey, like, especially for the team, like, I know that I know that the lockdowns are different in everybody's locations. Some are more flexible, some are more strict. But then, especially on the ones that are more strict, like a lot of these people, like the teams or listeners that live in apartments, like if you have a pretty strict lockdown, but you have a yard, at least you can go outside. But I know a lot of my team lives in townhouses and apartments. They don't have a yard. And so like I was just being proactive and thinking about the mental impact that the circumstances of the world are having right now. And I don't know what circumstances they are in outside of work. And so I want them to know that I care to, I don't need to know the details, but I want to know that they're okay. And so I just threw it out there. I said, hey, is there anything that I can do to, I think I literally said mental health. Is there anything I can do to support your guys' mental health?
Well, I love the, like, you probably said this word a dozen times in one way or another, care, culture of care. I care. And it's real. It's real. Most, like, if you feel like you are going too fast to care, you're not living life. Listen to what Damon is saying here. Can you talk, like, you do a really good job at scaling too, and you have systems.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, like, it wasn't like you individually wrote a book for me, went to the store and got a gold envelope for me. That was a system of something you had there. What can be scaled and what's individual? Like obvious, but the trophy, right? In that case, like that was an individual thing. Can you talk to us maybe about how to scale care?
Yeah. Well, on the trophy thing, I'll kind of answer it in reverse, like the more unique things like the trophy. So like the reason why I emphasized earlier it was only like a $10 thing is because I want people to realize that they don't have to spend a crap ton of money.
Thank you.
But they can still have a very, like I've talked to Mo tons of times since then, and he does podcasts too. And guess what's right behind him next to like his legit medals and trophies he's won at fitness shows is my little 6-inch trophy. That's right. He goes, dude, that's the best place. He goes, I'm never getting rid of that thing. So all you got to do for me, for the individual circumstances, when you have opportunities like that, is you don't have to spend a ton of money. You have to show that you invested some thought into it. And that doesn't mean it's expensive. So for the one-off things, I do that. Anytime I meet somebody, I think what's unique, what would actually, complement their personality, what would foster the relationship in the path that it makes sense we should foster this relationship, and just think of something really unique. Now on the book thing, so I have a process, but it is very personalized. So like you said, I personally wrote in the book, I personally warmed up the glue gun, I personally did the stamp, but that's all part of a process. I have a stack of those gold envelopes. I have a stack of, what'd you call it, a dossier? I have a stack of the envelopes. I have, a dozen sticks of black glue gun, wax sticks. I have the stamp ready, but it is a process. Now, as far as like other ways to scale, like my business though is totally documented. So, my team handles 95% of our fulfillment. Now, that's not to say the last 5% that I do isn't a crap ton. It's just I had so much stuff that I had to delegate it. And so I had to document it. So you can fully scale your business simply through documentation. But then maybe more what you're asking about fostering relationships is, let's give the example of LinkedIn. So I want to continue to network, grow my audience, and meet new people. I also don't have the time though to send all the initial outreach. So I have a VA that when I first hired her, I said, here's my login. Don't do a single thing for like a month. Just watch how I reply to people, watch how I engage people, and absorb my voice, because I'm very protective of the relationships that I have fostered and the reputation I've built. And I want to maintain that, but I want to scale it. So I had her just kind of follow and absorb the voice. And then I still do all the original content. I still make the posts, but a lot of times I'll have her follow guidelines that say, here's Damon's voice and here's how you can follow up. Or I'll have her go engage on other people's content just to initiate a relationship. But here's where you protect your personal side. So that's the scalability, have somebody else do the monotonous stuff. But as soon as somebody replies in a specific way, in a non-sales pitchy way, in a non-generic way,
now it's back to you.
She sends it back to me.
Yeah.
I don't check my inboxes. My VA does. And then she sends me the link when it matters, because I want to take care of that relationship but I also acknowledge I don't have the time to do all the little nitty gritty stuff.
I love it. Actually, what you did, and this is even personally for me, I will disappear, and that's because of the cycle of where I've gone through is being someone who relied on people like that I was outsourcing to going very much back into an entrepreneurial place where I did everything. And now into a place where I have a team, a small team. Like my team is two of my sons, and I do pay them. It's not just like beans and rice or whatever. Yeah. One that does my videos, one that does the podcasting stuff. But I noticed that there sometimes those friction points keep me from doing things. And I'm going to give you a prime example. Well, two. Number one, I was off a little bit on my calendar today because I changed location. So here's the anywhere guy who gives people all these tips and advice, nuggets on how to do. And I couldn't figure out my schedule. I was off on that. But I have a group that I'm leading through what I call a group experience. And in that group experience, some of them are going to hear this podcast and they'll chuckle at me. But I have timed tangible gifts that show up. It's like, hey, here is a note. Here's the reason. There's a little bit of mystery and intrigue that kind of go along with that, but it aids in their growth and development. Well, dude, I'm 3 days later than I said I would be because I'm still a part of my process. There's no need for that. So I'm going to throw myself on you. And because I know that there are other parallels that are out there, fix that for me. Like operate on me. What am I, where do I talk to me?
So a lot of those things you have to, the very literal step 1, 2, 3 things are easy to document because you document step 1, step 2, step 3. But the other things that are more dynamic, you have to document the thought process, because I would bottleneck a lot of the company operations too, because it was before I delegated 95% of the stuff, maybe I delegated 80% of the stuff. The last 20% are things that I either had a personal interest in, I enjoyed that process, or I was very protective of the quality control.
You're so describing me. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So what I had to do was go, okay, it's just not realistic for me to continue to do these. Not that I don't want to, it's just, the company's moving in these directions and I need to spend my time over here. And so I had to go, how the freak do I pass this on to my team while still feeling confident that the quality control is going to be protected? So then I realized that the only difference was that I have a thought process of how to tackle the dynamic solution. So then I started to say, okay, how can I document the thought process? So then on those dynamic things, I'll say, go look at their website, go look up social media, go look up this to educate yourself. So I'll walk them through how to find the answer and the thought process behind it. So on the dynamic things, you can do that. On the specific things like you sending gifts along the journey, what I've done is in our CRM, when we launch a new client, right out on day one, it says, schedule these 3 things. So I just do it right there. So week 1, send them a thank you card. So right then I just write them a thank you card. Week, month 1, send whatever. So I put it in the calendar. And then month 3, like a lot of times I'll send cupcakes or little food gifts that say, it's your SEO birthday, your first quarter SEO birthday. And so I just order the freaking thing right there and then just schedule it out 3 months.
Okay. Yes. In what you just now said, it's interesting because, a lot of us, especially if you're entrepreneurial, right? You're probably doing something that you own. You feel a little bit smarter. You feel like you care a little bit more. There's a little bit more, like it's like you're an artist in this scenario, right? This is your expression.
Yeah.
And being able to trust, there are only a few elements that really should take your actual presence for. And what you've done is you've taken not just the tasks of like email and like these things, but you've given what you've just described as basically brain share. You are assimilating someone into the fabric of your thinking.
Yeah.
And then empowering them to be an extension of you. How do you come to that? Like that takes an awful lot of trust, because now we're talking about you, your brand, and the beard. Protect the beard. Do you have like phases of trust, or how do you just like?
Part of it's come out of necessity. Like you get to a breaking point, growing pains where, you probably should have done it, but now you don't have a choice. But yeah, there's certainly trust, and that's probably a good topic to talk about. And back to like hiring VAs. So I will spend way more time on the front end of finding the right person than prematurely committing to the cheapest person or the quickest person. So a lot of times I'll walk you through kind of my hiring a VA process. So the first thing I do is, I go to the job listing, but then on the job posting, I'll strategically structure it. So on the top, it's, personal.
Where do you typically post at?
If it's an overseas VA, like onlinejobs.ph is kind of the go-to place.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll post on there, and then at the top of the post, I'll try to be personal. I'll be like, hey, I've worked with VAs for 12 years, and I understand the culture. I understand 13th month, which is like this holiday thing that they have, and get on their side instead of trying to get them on my side. And then I'll skip down to the bottom, and in the bottom I put the compensation. Now, the reason why I do that is because usually people will scan job listings, or at least the person that you don't want to hire is going to scan it. And so then in the middle, I'll strategically put something like just freaking stupid. Like I'll put an Easter egg, like I love tuna fish flavored coffee. Like, and so I'll put, don't Skype me on this website, or don't message me on this website. My preferred method of communication is Skype. And you must copy and paste, I love tuna fish flavored coffee. And so what you're looking for is somebody that followed. Yeah. Like that's going to cut out 75% of the people. When I first started doing that, half the time I would be like, oh, but I still got 20 other applicants in my inbox. I should go look. And then I'd be distracted by the resumes and say, oh, that's a good resume. And then I email them, and it would never work out. So I just blanket statement, don't even look at them anymore. Then when they Skype me, if they don't tell me about their love affair with tuna fish flavored coffee, like I'm not going to reply to it. And so that's going to cut out 90% of your applicants. And then the last 10%, I'll usually do like a paid gig. I'll say, hey, let's do this for a day or this for a week. That way, if it doesn't work out, you're still compensated. I don't feel uncomfortable about wasting your time. And then you're going to see the actual, a million people can say they do web design or SEO or copywriting, but it's a lot different when you actually see what they output. So then I'll look at what they output, and then the last handful of people that are remaining, I just have a conversation with. And are these the type of people I'd want to work with? Are these the type of people that can maintain the company culture? Are these the type of people that I can trust? I mean, once they're in, they're in, because I'll spend the time to figure it out. I'll spend 2 to 4 weeks going through.
Do you now have your documentation? Is it like on literal documents? Is it video? Like, how do you now put your brain into this person that you've now deemed?
It's documented. Yeah. So most of the stuff, I don't do video a lot because I do some video. The reason why I don't do, most of my stuff's documented in our CRM, and it's contextual. But the reason why I don't do video is because I get very granular on the documentation. And if that ever changes, I don't want to go record a 30-minute video again. Instead, I can go change one line in the middle of text. So everything that we have is text-based largely. There's a handful of things where I have a screen recording or a link to a document or an image or something, but by far the majority is text-based. And when I mean granular, I mean ridiculously granular. It took me probably 2 to 3 hours every other day for a year to go through all of our processes, because if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it right. And other than changing it here and there, I never wanted to do it again.
And the payoff, that sounds like a heavy investment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming the payoff has been much more in time.
Oh, for sure.
Like what's been the biggest payoff for you for doing the 2 to 3 hours every other day for a year?
Well, I mean, two examples come to mind. One is on the personal side, one's on the business side. So that whole experience was 6 or 7 years ago when I went through that. The tangible side, where we can probably quantify this more for the listeners, is we had a lead come in that was for this huge international company, and they wanted, like, the contract was like 10 grand a month. So it was a pretty big contract. And if I didn't have the processes documented, I wouldn't have felt comfortable bidding on that, because if we got it, how would I fulfill on it? But then, so I was able to put a bid on. We ended up getting a contract. So let's say that I didn't document it and I was more shady and I just put in the bid anyway because I was money hungry. Then my reputation's on the line. Sweet, we got it, but now we're going to look like a train wreck. So there was very literal financial benefits by being able to comfortably board clients. But then there was another time on the personal side. It was actually just outside my office window here. Like in the mornings when it's during the summer, I'll block off like 8 to 9 a.m. and then 3 to 4 p.m. on my calendar, because that's when I'll walk my kids to school or walk them back. Like if I can just spend that time walking, like I'm going to go do that. And so I'll do things like that throughout the day. And then one time my kids came down and they wanted to like go play in the backyard and jump on the trampoline. So I was just like, sure, why not? So I went out there, and then it wasn't like anything was new, but just something hit me a little bit differently when I was out with my kids. And it was a little bit of peace and comfort knowing, well, I just totally walked away from my job and I have zero hesitation, zero concerns. My team's doing all the heavy lifting right now. And I know that everything's being knocked out perfectly, and I can do whatever my thing I was doing, I can do it later. So there's definitely been some personal comfort that goes along with it too.
That's so powerful. And I've had people describe like where they were like, wait, something's missing. Oh yeah, the dark cloud, the heavy weight, or and just because you get out of that once doesn't mean you're not susceptible to going back in. It's like always having that's why I love you're just hearing from you. I'm like,
Dude,
yeah.
I had a moment just a week or two ago when I was, because I'm basically grooming myself to get myself out of production, that last 5% of things, and just be the relationship guy. Like I'm just going to go on and do podcasts, I'm going to go on and meet people, and then just continue to do the parts that I enjoy. And as I'm passing on those last 5% of things, they're taking a little bit longer because they're all dynamic. I got to figure out how to document the thought process. And I was following up on some new clients because I bored them, but once I pushed the go button in our CRM, like it's on my team. And we were like 2 months into a new account, and then I just like had a flashback about them being a new account. And so I hurried and messaged one of my guys, and I was like, holy crap, where are we at with this thing? And they're like, dude, that was done last month. And it was, even for me, that was a new and rewarding experience, because it was like instant panic for a second. But then I was like, oh yeah, I documented that and gave it. Okay,
So amazing.
I'm good.
It's literally like you made a time machine and you went ahead of yourself and took care of it, and you didn't even know it here. It's like
Yeah.
forward. That's amazing. And I would say this, I believe this to be true. Like I've seen, like I could probably line myself up in the same category with a lot of others, is that sometimes you're not getting the big deal because you're not ready for the big deal. Sometimes and so like you literally will throw up internal hesitations. Like you'll put your own barriers in between you and what you say you want, because you're actually like, if you got it, it would wreck you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important, especially for the early stage entrepreneurs, is that they feel like they got to take like every sale, they got to take every opportunity, but then that hurts their reputation in the long run. Like be okay telling somebody no. Like the nephew that I'm mentoring, he's getting all these leads. I told him to get on LinkedIn, just network. And so what he's doing is he's saying, hey, I'm not selling anything. Like I'm mentoring under my uncle doing web design, and I just want the experience. Like, can I do anything for free for you? Because I want to go through that process. And he's learning all these, how customer relationships work and what people really want and how to set expectations. And so with that, a lot of people are replying and saying, well, cool, can you do this logo? Can you do SEO? And he comes back to me and he's like, can I do that? And I go, I can, but you can't. And you need to tell them that you can't. Be honest. Set the realistic expectations. Tell them you're only building out WordPress websites. You're only starting with the small stuff and you're working your way up. And then you win because you're not feeling that unnecessary pressure to do something that you know you can't do. They're not waiting on you for something that they thought you can do that you can't. So I think just in all things, I've just been super transparent. It's paid off well.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're going to round third base. We're going to take this puppy home, and I'm going to ask you to do one thing practical, because you and I geeked out about some of the different things that we can do to provide experience and make people happy. And I'm going to ask you to share some of those awesome ideas and websites and stuff like that with people. And then, man, anything that you can share with a person that is either looking to create and maybe step over the line into to be bold in some of the ways that you've described, maybe some of the ways that you're talking even to your nephew or others that you're mentoring. Share a little chunk of that, and then tell us where we can connect with your brother, and we will bid you adieu.
Lord, well, thanks for this, Lord Damon. Even I am not used to my own magnificent title. I think the first thing I would say is revisit what I said earlier about just being comfortable with the unknown. Don't feel like you have to prematurely commit to something. And the other thing is stop caring what other people are doing. Like we said earlier, there's a lot of successful people, but they're miserable, but they're not going to get on social media and talk about their misery. So you're only seeing like the flashy stuff. So just be, a great example is, I'll compare this very literally to web design. A lot of times I have clients come in and say, well, we want a site that looks like that because that's what our competitors doing. Who cares that they're doing that? Just because they're doing that doesn't mean it's working. So I would say do your own thing. It helps you sleep better at night. In the long term, it'll bring you better clients because they're going to be the ones you like to work with. So just do your own thing. As far as how you can get a hold of me, LinkedIn is my platform of choice. If you want the magnificent copy of the book that Donnie talked about, I have a free PDF at freeseobook.com, and sometimes I talk about entrepreneurship at damonburton.com. There you go.
Love it. And then final question, Damon, what kind of beard products can we find that will give us such a majestic facial composition?
Maybe it's my lack of beard products. I don't know. I'm like the worst beard grooming etiquette advisor possible.
In the raw. Damon Burton, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, brother. And I know you've helped me. I'm sure you've helped a lot of others in the process. Thank you, man.
Super cool. You bet. Thanks, Donnie.